Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sober Jable. I am Joshua Abel. So it's a beautiful Sunday morning out. We've got a nice breeze going on, which is totally different from yesterday. Yesterday was it was hot as hell, and the air was just stagnant. It was just disgusting out. So I spent pretty much the entire day working on my book, and then coming up with ideas for this video blog. Now, it is Sunday, so that means church, lunch, and more church. So I'm showered, dressed, and ready to go. We're going to start out with Sunday school at 10 a.m., go into service at 11, grab some pizza on the way home, and then relax until we go back this evening. So I'm actually a little excited about it. My thoughts on religion and everything. I've never been really religious, spiritual, but never really religious. But what I'm finding is during the different services, I'm actually getting topics to think about and talk about. So that's really exciting. Now, if you're getting value out of these videos, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and keep watching. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Hey, we made it back from church, and we got our Domino's pizza. Now, Domino's generally isn't my favorite kind of pizza. I've never really enjoyed it, but today we got something called, I think it's Boston style, and it's a thinner crust and none of that seasoning on the crust, and it was actually pretty good, and they had a sale going on, so that made it even better. But we got back from church, and immediately when I walked in the doors and were greeted by a couple of people, it kind of made me realize something about myself. I am really uncomfortable when strangers are overly nice to me. Immediately I'm like, what do you want? And this, one of the women there, she's an older lady. She's super sweet and just wants the best for other people and people in her lives. At least she seems that way. I told her she was sitting in a pew, and I shook her hand, and I said, "Oh, it's so good to see you again." And immediately she looks at me and she's like, "Have you been saved?" Immediately, I wanted to run out of the building and drive far, far away. Now, I'm sure she was just being nice, wanted to, make sure that I felt a part of their congregation. But it's not just her, it's like everyone else, They'll come up to you and shake your hand, pat you on the back and things like that, which is wonderful. I really feel invited and welcome there. It's just in my head, I have that mental block. All my life, I've always had the feeling within of not being good enough, not worthy of. And so I think it stems from that mental hang-up of not being good enough. I sabotage a lot of things in my life because I don't believe that I deserve it. I don't feel worthy of having, good relationships or a good job or, living a good life. And those are mental hang-ups that I personally need to work through. Some people are nice because they're nice, and without an ulterior motive or anything like that. And I really need to work on boosting my self-confidence. All of my self-confidence thus far is pretty much a facade. I'll just put it on the outside that, oh, I'm this super confident guy who can do anything. But on the inside, I'm screaming at myself saying, you're not good enough. You're not worthy. You'll never amount to anything. You're a piece of crap, and on and on and on and on. And, repeating those negative feelings about myself has really done a lot of damage. The other thing that we learned in church was to pray for other people. And, ultimately being selfless. I I absolutely do believe in the power of prayer, the power of thought, and the fact that it does have energy. And, actually stepping outside of myself and thinking of others is kind of in the background. Um, you know, I've always put myself first before others, making sure that I'm doing what I want first before, even giving any consideration to anyone else. And I am sure past relationships will attest to that fact. I am a very selfish person, and that's never been my intent. I've never woken up in the morning and said, "Hey, I'm going to be selfish today and only think about myself." Unfortunately, it just comes naturally. The pastor was going on about praying for your enemy. Well, immediately my first thought was screw that. I had a bully in high school who would push me around and, talk down to me and make me feel really bad about myself. And even coming out of church, I'm like, I'm not praying for that asshole. He can die for all I care. But praying for your enemies and other people. So, just sending out those positive vibes for other people. And during stints of sobriety, and when I actually had focus on being positive, there were times where, I would wish other people the best and, hope good things for them. And ultimately, it would come around. Whether or not you believe in karma is irrelevant, but personally, I believe that what I put out there will ultimately come back to me. And that's kind of an idea that I've gotten away from. I especially when I was drinking, there was the only person in the world was me, and it was a lonely world. Now that I'm living with my sister and her family, I see the interaction between them, and they genuinely care about each other. They want each other to be the best person they can be. They encourage each other to, to do what makes them happy. And I haven't had that in so long. It's so nice to just sit back and look at that. And I'm in awe of, the love and the compassion that they have for each other. And it's nice to see. It's so nice to experience that, even as an outsider looking in, just to know that actually does exist, and to hope one day to have that. When I was with Ryan, he would always have my back. He would always stand behind me and encourage me and support me to do what made me happy, even though it would flip-flop from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. He never ever stood in my way, never doubted me. And I'd like to say that I always did that for him, and I never stood in his way per se, but when I would go on these drinking binges, he ultimately couldn't do what he wanted to do, because then he had to take care of me, and that wasn't fair. So putting out those positive vibes for other people, thinking and praying about people, taking action into helping other people through community service, volunteer work, and things like that. I've done community service in the past. I've volunteered time, and on the back end, it was great because I would walk away with a great feeling. But almost every single time, I would be going into it with the idea, with the thought of, what can I get out of this? Part of probation, I had to do so many hours of community service. The only reason I was doing it was to get probation done. I've volunteered for a couple of other organizations. I would do filming and marketing for them, but ultimately it was my initial mindset in accepting those type of things was to build up my clientele or make connections with other people in the community who might want my services, things to help me along. It was never just for the mere compassion of helping another human being. So, and I've always wanted to make a positive impact on other people's lives with whatever I did. That was always my want, not necessarily my actions. And so that's something I definitely need to work on. Becoming more selfless than selfish. Praying and thinking for other people, helping them, and allowing people to come into my life and be joyous and nice just for the sake of being joyous and nice. Hey everyone, so we just got back from evening service and we continued on more about prayer and the importance of praying for others. And it made me realize that, I haven't really prayed a lot except for, safety prayers. Things like, oh God, please don't let me get this ticket. Or, oh God, just let me win the lottery. Lord, if you do this, then I won't ever drink again. Those were the types of prayers that I would do. And again, touching on the subject of being selfish, it was always helping me. But what I also realized was I really haven't ever prayed for anyone except myself, ever, that I can recall. Now, growing up, we weren't a religious family. We went to church when I was younger, but that kind of tapered off and in my adolescence and into adulthood, I never went to church. And during the last 15 minutes of service, we all prayed for other people. We were instructed to pray for other people. So I bowed my head and closed my eyes. And, I prayed for a couple of different people. And I almost went into a hypnotic state. It was really interesting. Everything just kind of left as I focused on the people that I was praying for. And then a girl started playing the piano. So I raised my head and opened my eyes. But I saw around me, other people continued to pray. And it was such a powerful moment. It was really, really intriguing to see other people of such devout faith, focusing on their prayers and really putting, you could feel an energy in the room. It was really interesting to see, very, very humbling to have been able to witness that. But I don't go to church and expect to get homework, but we did today. The service was focused on prayer, and we were all handed out these slips of paper, and it has a line for each day of the week, and we are to, write down a couple of different people each day to focus our prayers on. It's an interesting concept, and something that I might actually take to heart, just to get out of my self-centeredness and at least for a few minutes a day, focus on someone other than myself. But I hope you got value out of this. If you did, please make sure to share, comment, and like below. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. But other than that, have a great night, and I'll see you soon. Take care. I don't know if you can see this, but there is a deer right there.